Hi guys, and welcome to a new video. Let's get right into it and talk about the books that I want to read in 2026. In this video, I'm only going to talk about 13 out of the 26 books because I'm such a big mood reader. I know that my reading taste is going to evolve throughout the year, so I just want to give myself a bit of grace and allow myself to add more books later in the year. So there will be a part 2 to this video coming out next year, so stay tuned for that video. The first 6 books are gonna be books that I physically own, so they're my physical TBR books. The first book on the list is Silver Cloak by L.K. Stephen. I have heard a lot of amazing things about this book. I don't really know too much about it except that the magic system, like they use wands, and I don't know if this is set in an academy or after the academy. Okay, so this is a bit of a revenge story. The main character's parents were murdered, so she is now going undercover in the academy of her enemies. I don't want to know too much going into this, so I'm not gonna read too much in detail on the summary of this book. Super excited, heard amazing things, cannot wait to pick this up. The next book on the list is one that I just suddenly woke up one day and I'm like, wait, I'm kind of in a mood to read this. So that book is The Art of Prophecy by Wesley Chu. This is a high fantasy book. I think 2026 is the year that I want to get back into high fantasy. And the reason why I'm in the mood to read this is because I kind of want to read something Asian inspired. So there is a kind of chosen one trope in this book, except the prophecy might be wrong. So I'm very excited to see how the author is going to twist this story around. And I'm probably going to read this very, very soon. Probably will be the first book I pick up in 2026. I had to run to my shelf to get the next book because I forgot to bring it with me. So the next book on the list is Silver Elite by Danny Francis. I got this book immediately when it came out. There was a lot of hype on this book and I had FOMO, so I had to pick this up. I think a lot of people have read this and there's kind of a lot of mixed reviews. So at this point, I'm just curious to see how I feel about this book, and that's why it's on the list. This is an adult dystopian, but very heavy with romance, I believe. The next book just came out, I think, in November of 2025, and already so many people are like hyping this book up. I just heard amazing, amazing reviews. This book is The Everlasting by Alex E. Harrow. I have read one book by this author. I keep forgetting the name of this book. I'll put the cover. And then I also read the short story that this book, I believe, is based on. There is a female knight, there is time travel. I believe the male lead is like a scholar or something. I heard the writing is just beautiful, so I cannot wait to try this book out. As I said, 2026 is the year that I want to get back into high fantasy, so of course I have to put this book on the list. This is The Will of the Many by James Islington. Super hype, popular high fantasy. So many people have put this book as one of their top fantasy reads of the year, so I obviously have to read this. So I do know like the magic system is a bit like a pyramid scheme. The people at the bottom give power to the people on top, and there is also like an academy school setting. Main character is going undercover, which reminds me of the Red Rising series, which is one of my favorite series of all time. So I have very high expectations for this one. The last book on my physical TBR that I'm adding in the books I want to read in 2026 is, I think, it's still a bit underrated, but it's starting to get more popular. And this is The Raven Scholar by Antonia Hodgson. This is another high fantasy. I think there are like different houses, and there is a bit of a murder mystery happening in this one as well. And I think the characters are like competing for a position. Not too sure. I want to go into this blind, so I'm not gonna try and research the summary. Another book that I am very excited to read soon. So those six books are what I physically own right now. The next book on the list is one that I don't physically own, but I will probably borrow from the library. That book is Mate by Ellie Hazelwood. So I have read Bright, which is the first book in this paranormal romantasy series. And Bright was just okay, but I've heard a lot of people say that Mate is so much better, so I'm very curious to try this out. And for me, like romance or romantasy books are great palate cleansers, so I'm gonna keep this book for when I need to read a palate cleanser. Now we're on to book number 8. So the next 6 books are books that will be coming out in 2026. I have my iPad in front of me so that I can search what these books are about. Like, no matter how many times I read the summary for a book, I just forget about it immediately after I stop reading. So I need to reference the summary here. The first new release I want to read in 2026 is The Swan's Daughter by Roshani Chokshi. This book comes out on January 6th. I have read one book by this author. It's The Last Tale of the Flower Bride. I really like the writing style in that book. It has a bit of that dark fairy tale gothic feeling. I'm not sure if The Swan's Daughter is going to have the same vibes, but I do really like her writing style, so I am excited to read this book. So this is a YA romantasy book. So I'm just gonna read to you guys this short paragraph from Goodreads. In this lush and romantic novel from New York Times bestseller author Roshani Chokshi, a prince is only as good as his beating heart, and a maiden is only as good as her honest word. But when love and the truth become impossibly tangled, the two must figure out how to survive together or fall completely apart. To find love is a curse. I'm gonna be pre ordering this book. Also, the cover is pretty. Moving on, the next new release I want to read is The Poet Empress by Shen Tao. This book comes out on January 20th. I have been seeing a couple of people talk about this book. They read the arc and they have just really, really amazing things to say about this. So I'm curious and really want to check this book out for myself. This is an adult fantasy romance with a historical fiction setting. Again, I'm gonna read you this one paragraph from Goodreads about this book. It says, debut author Shen Dao introduces readers to the lush, deadly world of the Poet Empress, a sweeping, epic, and intimate fantasy perfect for fans of The Serpents and the Wings of Night, The Song of Achilles, and She Who Became the Sun. Our main character, Wei Yin, she is desperate to save her family from starvation, so she sacrifices herself to become a concubine to a very cruel and violent prince. So there is a little bit of a dark theme in this book. It does sound like something I would enjoy, so I'm excited to check this out. The next book is a cozy fantasy that I am super, super excited for and highly anticipating. This is Agnes Albert's Mystical Cat Shelter by Heather Fawcett. This comes out on February 17. If you guys don't know, this author wrote the Emily Wells series, which has become one of my most beloved series. I really like the way she crafts these fantasy worlds that are so whimsical and cozy, but also there's adventure. There are some dangerous creatures and very charming characters. Not too sure what this new book is gonna be about. I just know there's cats. So Goodreads says a woman who runs a cat rescue in 1920s Montreal turns to a grouchy but charming wizard to help save the shelter in this heartwarming, cozy fantasy from the New York Times best-selling author of the Emily Wiles series. That's all I need to know. I will definitely be reading this, maybe not during winter, but definitely during the spring or summer months. Moving on, another book that is also coming out on February 17. This is The Sun and the Star Maker by Rachel Griffin. I've been seeing a lot of these authors' books around. I have one book by this author on my shelf that I've yet to read, but I have a feeling that her stories are kind of in line with the type of books I like to read. It says here in the summary, there was once a village so far north that most considered it the top of the world. And in that village, the sun fell in love with her star maker. So this is a whimsical and sweeping romantic fantasy. Sounds like a very fairy tale-esque kind of book. The main character Aurora, she may have some magic inside of her, so this star maker figure demands that Aurora come to his castle to study magic under his guidance. The summary reminds me of Uprooted by Naomi Novik, which also has that kind of where the main character is brought to the castle to study magic with the male lead. I did quite enjoy Uprooted, so I think I will like this book as well. Second last book on this list is The Book Witch by Meg Schaefer. This book comes out on April 7. I have not read anything by Meg Schaefer yet, but I've heard of the author, I've heard of their books. But so far, the summary of those two books didn't really align with what I'm interested to read, so that's why I haven't picked up any book by them. However, this one, The Book Witch, it does sound like something I would really enjoy, so I'm very excited to try my first book by this author. So in The Book Witch, the main character, she can hop into any novel, she just can't stay there. Come along with the Book Witch in this magical and inspiring love letter to reading from the USA Today bestselling author of The Wishing Game. So main character is a witch that can jump into novels. There's also a bit of an adventure and quest that our main character has to go on in this book, which is something I enjoy in fantasy books. I am very excited to try this book out. Okay, and now we're on to the last book on this list. This book is probably the one that I'm most excited to read out of all the books on this list. I know I say I'm excited about every single book, but I promise you this is the one that I'm most excited for. The book is The Last Contract of Isako by Fonda Lee. The Greenbone Saga series by Fonda Lee is my top favorite fantasy books of all time, so that's why I say I'm so excited to read something new by this author. It says here, get ready to be blown away by this searing, standalone space opera where corporate samurai fight beneath merciless stars and death is always a mere breath away. I also didn't know this was science fiction. Anyway, a samurai in space, not what I expected, but I'm here for it. We are at the end of this video, so those are the 13 books that I want to read in 2026. Again, I will be filming a part 2 later in the year, so stay tuned for that video. I'm curious to see what books you guys are planning to read in 2026. Thank you again so much for clicking on this video, and I will see you guys next time.